10 seconds.
Is this where the damn drumming and the music kicks in?
Yeah. What is going on, everybody? Hello. Welcome to On the Pipe Podcast. I am your host, as always, Tyler Shepardson, and today is Tuesday, January the 31st, 2023, years after zero. And what do you know it? We got a really cool episode, a really special episode of On the Pipe Podcast coming at you live on this Tuesday morning. Not Tuesday morning, Tuesday night. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, we're going to be joined in just a few moments by a very special guest. Josh Koscheck is going to join us. And so I'm actually, I guess secret's out. I had to re-record the beginning part because I actually hit my microphone in the middle of the live feed and then it unplugged it. And then I realized after the fact that my audio was not going through. So we are recording this intro after we did the show, and it's a really cool conversation. But now that I'm recording it after the show, I can tell you that we started out talking about dirt bikes and how we got into dirt bikes. And then we transitioned from that to the early days of MMA, and that was a really cool part. It was cool to kind of take a trip down memory lane and hear about his career, how it got started. He was on the very first season of The Ultimate Fighter. So we got to talk a lot about that and the cast of that show and the early days of MMA and how everything progressed from there. And then we circled back to dirt bikes, and it was a really fun conversation. So the first good bit is about dirt bikes, and then we move into his MMA career. And the reason why I want to tell you that, and the reason why I thought that this conversation was so cool, is because a lot of dirt bike people may not necessarily follow the UFC or watch MMA that much. And so they know that Josh Koscheck was a fighter. They know that he was in the UFC. They Googled the pictures of him, seen him with blonde hair and all that. But I don't think people really understand the extent of it and where he was in the history of MMA and how he got it started. And I think this is a podcast that also has the potential to cross over into the MMA world, which is where I consume a lot of content as well. But a lot of those folks are going to be surprised to see what Josh Koscheck is up to nowadays, riding dirt bikes, promoting a dirt bike racing series. So this was such a cool podcast for me. Just over the past couple years or so, like Josh and I became pretty good friends. We talk pretty regularly. We talk pretty frequently. And I, of course, was announcing the Full Gas Sprint Enduro series with him last year and working with the team and doing some media stuff. But then it's kind of turned into, like, him and I text a lot, and then we also like talk on the phone quite a bit and bounce ideas off of each other. And he's been very supportive in my business ventures. And it's been cool to kind of build that friendship. But that's why this show was really cool to me, because it brought my past of combat sports together with my current of racing, dirt bike racing. So it was a really cool conversation. It was a really fun conversation, and I'm glad that you all are here to listen to it as well, because we ended up talking for like 2 hours, and there's a lot of good information in there. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the off-road world as well. So we got some stuff on the horizon. We're going to do a GNCC preview show. It's not going to be an OTP Tuesday. We're going to do it on another random date and have some of the buddies, have some of the friends involved, and talk about this upcoming GNCC season. Next Tuesday, OTP Tuesday, we got a very, very, very special guest lined up. You have to tune in and see who it is. There's going to be more than one guest, but we do have one very special guest, and all of our guests are equally as special. But this is like the first time I've ever organized it a week in advance, so I'm stoked to let you know who this guest is. So you're going to want to tune in and listen. It's going to be cool. But yeah, racing has kicked off, and it's really going to kick off this weekend, and it's going to start everything going on. Sumter National Enduro is going on this weekend, and a lot of stuff going on in the dirt bike world. So another couple big shows planned, but yeah, I don't want to waste any more of your time. I want to get right into this show. Also, want to announce everything is officially underway with Beta. Beta Motorcycles has been and will continue to be the official manufacturer of On The Pipe podcast. So I couldn't be more grateful for Beta and the support that they've given the show. We're going to do some really cool stuff with them coming up this year and coming up in the next coming weeks. So stay tuned for that, especially might even be some giveaways. Might have some stuff going on. So stay in the loop with On The Pipe Podcast, and we'll let you know. But yeah, stoked to announce Beta Motorcycles will remain the official manufacturer of On The Pipe Podcast. Beta Motorcycles has been family owned and operated since 1905. They manufacture the finest enduro trials and dual sport motorcycles that are known for their premium quality and rideability. Beta motorcycles are the best looking bikes on the market, and they back it up with their superior performance. Head on over to betausa.com for more information on their available models and to find a dealer near you to get yours today. So stoked to be working with Beta, stoked to work with them last year and continue that going forward. So yeah, check them out. Really cool bikes. Yeah. Everyone that went to the demo day, I can't tell you how many messages I got from the Beta demo about people saying, hey, I get the rideability thing. So it's a real thing. You should check out a Beta, betausa.com. This episode is also brought to you in part by Zach Tussle at Raymond James Financial. He's a racer and a financial advisor. He will be racing this weekend at Sumter. I think he said row 34, 32, or 34. So Zach Tussle will be out there racing in the A-class because he is a very fast racer, and he's also a financial advisor. So if you see him out there, flag him down, ask him for financial information, and set up a meeting with him to talk with him about how he can help your financial future. You don't want to delay. Right now is the time to get in the market, and Zach Tussle is the guy to help you do that. Check him out, financialadvisorsdenvernc.com. Find him on social media or find him on row 32 to 34 at this weekend's National Enduro. Yeah, so I don't know. We got some stuff. Still up to something. Got some stuff heating up. Got some stuff cooking, but now's not the time for that. Now is the time to get directly into our show. So you're going to see me change clothes here in a little bit because we recorded at different times. But thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Wherever you are listening or watching to this at, please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you rate us, only if it's 5 stars, and leave a comment. It's going to go a long way in helping this thing grow. I appreciate you growing with me. We got all of the OTP sweatshirts mailed out and done. So if you ordered a sweatshirt, thank you so much. There's not many of them left. So if you want your OTP sweatshirt, click the link in all of our bios. It's a link tree. It's got our shop on there. You can order stuff directly through there. It's selling like hotcakes. And honestly, the sweatshirts, the camo sweatshirts, probably once they're sold out, they're not going to be any more. The hoodies, I think they're a staple. They're really cool. They're most comfortable hoodies you'll ever wear. They're still there, so pick up your hoodie. If you want it delivered to a race, I'll be at a lot of races. Just shoot me a message, give it to you in person, or just place an order directly through the website, and we'll get sent out to you. Thank you so much for everyone that supported the show and bought a shirt, bought a hoodie, bought a sweatshirt, bought a long sleeve shirt. Really means a lot. Really appreciate it, and it's going to go a long way in helping the show grow, get some more technology that we need so that way we can do all of these shows on video. And then I'm also trying to put together some stuff for the riders as well. So your support goes towards supporting the riders and supporting the sport. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I guess I missed an opportunity to say that this episode is also brought to you by On The Press, custom t-shirts and screen printing. They're your number one source for t-shirts. So if you have a construction company, if you have I don't know, any kind of company. I just said construction because that's the first thing I think of. But if you have a company and you need shirts made, we can make them. And by we, I mean I. And by I mean our new sponsor, On The Press. See what I did there? On the pipe, on the press. That way, see, look, I just hit the cord again. But that's why I'm in this predicament re-recording this. So if you need t-shirts made, shoot me a DM. Let me know. I don't have socials or anything made for the business yet, but I'm making t-shirts. I already fulfilled like 4 customers' order, and I'm making all the OTP stuff myself. So if you need t-shirts made, reach out to me. We'll get them made. All right. Follow, subscribe, be a friend, tell a friend if you like these shows. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to OTP. Let's get into it. One of the men that is involved in this racing world is a guy that we are going to talk to here tonight. And he's been involved in the dirt bike world. He's been out there racing. He's been out there alongside you all racing, and then decided to try, or to get into, not try because they're doing it and they're doing a good job at it. Got into the mix as a promoter, taking over the Full Gas Sprint Enduro series. We talked to him on the show before, so he's going to be coming back on the show. But joining us now is a 4-time NCAA All-American wrestler, a national champion NCAA wrestler, a UFC world title contender, an MMA legend that has now transitioned in the off-road racing world, the owner of the Full Gas Sprint Enduro series. Everybody, welcome back to the show, Josh Koscheck. Josh, what's going on? You asleep?
Yeah, because we're about 38 minutes late. It's whoa. Listen, my grandfather used to tell me to be on times, to be early, to be late, to be running, boy. You only got me for like 10 more minutes.
Oh, man. I would take off running, but I can't run at the moment, so they got me out of it this time.
T-Shep, man, come on. Listen, when you come to a full gas race, we will never start this late. I promise you that. Damn.
I can attest to that. This is not as well of a ran ship as it is at the Full Gas Sprint Enduros.
Oh, my goodness.
So I remember, the second round last year is when I joined on the crew and announcing and doing whatever I ended up doing. But I remember you Tyler, 7 seconds. We're starting in 7 seconds. Like, you guys run a tight ship over there. Not so tight here. But I meant 8 Central Standard Time, and so we're really 20 minutes early for those in the middle.
Well, then you fooled me because all my posts said 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
This is a typo.
Yeah, all right, I got it. All right, I'll forgive you on that one. All right, so where are we at today, man? What is today? What is it? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? What day is it?
OTP Tuesday, man.
Oh, gotcha. All right. Let's go.
All right, so we got a lot of stuff to talk about, and I don't know where to start. I don't know where to begin. So you and I have had a lot of conversations, and so now this is kind of the same thing, but except. So at this point, I accidentally hit the cord on my microphone, and it came unplugged. So I'm letting you know what was going on in this conversation. I basically just said, hey, you and I talk a lot, and now we're going to talk a lot where people can hear us. And then I went to say, I'm like a great value Josh Koscheck. I won a state wrestling title. He won a national wrestling title. I fought some rednecks in amateur MMA. He fought the top of the line for titles in MMA, and then he said this.
Hey, do you have one of these? Do you have a Topps card?
And I said, yeah, I got one like that my mom printed out on paper.
Or another Topps card?
I said, yeah, my mom, she printed it out on a piece of paper, and it's pretty close to a Topps card. Ha, 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 ha. I thought it was funny. But anyway, in this part right here, I kind of transitioned it going from what we had done and then how we got started in dirt bikes later on in life, both of us, the two of us, and kind of just wanted to say, hey, let's talk about all your MMA stuff and figure out how you got from MMA to now running the Full Gas Sprint Enduro series. See, I'm moving my hands a lot. That's what I was saying right there.
Well, realistically, I've always been a fan of dirt bikes. As a kid, I had a DS80 I bought for $300. It was the only bike I could ever afford. We grew up on a farm in Waynesburg, Pennsylvania, broke jokes, and, it was like we couldn't afford a dirt bike. So I worked all summer long, saved $300 up, and had a 1986 or 87 DS80, mono shocks on the back of it. The thing was sick. Didn't even know anything about changing oil. I don't think I ever changed the oil on the bike or even put oil in it, but that thing ran like a beast. But as a kid, I was always fascinated with dirt bikes, just couldn't afford it, So, obviously, long story short, here we are. I retired from fighting, moved to the East Coast, and, just fell in love with dirt bike riding. My Uncle Dan got me into it. He was a 50 B rider at the time, and, just and he would smoke me, and I was just like, this is embarrassing. This old man's crushing me. And so I went out and bought a couple bikes and just started training and just started getting better and better and better. And went out and started winning a bunch of B races and, just for the fun, it's just kind of something that gave me like some spark and got some fire under me just to fall in love on riding dirt bikes. And I worked so much with my other business, and I didn't really have anything like here. I didn't really know many people, so here on the East Coast, there was just something that I could just use to get away. Like get away and not think about work and not think about anything in life, and just get on that dirt bike and twist the throttle a little bit. I thought I was going fast, but I was probably only in first gear at the time. So just to get back and just, not think about anything and just cruise. And, I'm a competitor in nature from being a kid all the way up until adult life. I've been a competitor my whole life, and going out there on a dirt bike, it's something I relatively new to me, getting into racing and competing at a dirt bike level has just kind of revived me. As gives me something to look forward to at the end of the day, other than just um, you know. Uh, going for a run or doing a workout type of thing. So it gave me drive to get better. So but got involved in Full Gas when, obviously in, what was it, 2021 when Hooper announced it, or 2020 when he announced it, he just said, not going to do it anymore. And I was trying to buy it at that point. Obviously, we had some discussions. I had some discussions with Todd Ely about it and said, hey, I'm an investor. I'll go in on it. I think it'd be a great, fun project for all of us to do. And my intentions was to race Full Gas in 2021 the whole year. And I was just like, I was pretty bummed about it. And then, nothing happened to it, went by the wayside. And, there was another organization that started up. So I, obviously wasn't going to race it just because of the history and the background of how that all went down with you all. And so I just said, I'm not going to support that organization. I'm just going to go and race the North Carolina, Mid-East, Virginia, Josh Deal series, that type of stuff up in Virginia. And just kind of, waited a while. And then in 2020, right at the end of 2021, in October, I contacted Hooper. I said, man, what are you going to do with this thing? I was like, it is too cool of a name. Full Gas is too cool of a name to let it just go by the wayside. If somebody doesn't bring this thing back now, it's never going to be what it could be, or at least get it back to what it was. Obviously, we have a lot of work to get it back to what Hooper had it, but I think we're on the right direction. So I got with Hooper, got with Hooper, and we made a deal out and, put a season together in like literally a couple weeks. Didn't know really much about dirt bikes or promoting them, especially races and setting it up. And we invested some money into this thing and, I think we had a pretty successful season. Evan Smith was our pro overall champion. And, our payouts were crazy good for those riders. And I think he took home close to, $8,000 or $9,000 at the last round of our race up at NCMP in Henderson. So, my biggest thing is MMA is a lot like off road right now. It used to be when I first started. It was like Stone Ages. It's like you'd go out and you'd fight a dude for $500. You're the best in the world at what you do. And I went out at times. I think I made $250 for one fight. And then I had two fights in one day. I made $500. So you go out there and you're the best at what you do in the world, and you can make $500. It kind of reminds me of old, like off road now. Currently reminds me a lot of old MMA. And what I got involved, with the right people, the Zinc Entertainments, the Dwayne Zink and the Bob Cook, those type of guys that helped change the sport, like a Chuck Liddell. He was making a fortune after the Ultimate Fighter. So my goal here in the off-road industry is to try to help change this sport. And I think a lot of people fear me in this sport because, our payouts were much more than a lot of the other promoters out there. And I don't think that they like that, potentially because you can't tell me that the best off-road racers in the world can go to a race and make $250 or $500. To me that seems a lot like old school MMA, and I've been there and done that. So my goal is to help these riders. They're the best in the freaking world. How the hell are you racing for $250 when you go win a national event? Obviously Full Gas is not a national event at this point, but still, if I can drive the price up, and get everybody to maybe say, hey, come and race Full Gas because we're going to make more money, then that maybe wake these other organizations up to where they have to pay more money to get the riders. So for us, that's kind of what my motto is. Like, obviously we got to run it like a business. We got to be successful like a business. But man, that's my biggest thing is just try to take care of the riders, because I was a broke, MMA top of the game, some of the best fighters in the world making pennies, and then, I see it very similar to off-road now. So that's one of the areas why I really wanted to get involved in this industry.
Yeah, and I mean that's something that we've talked about before, and I mean that's really the sentiment that started OTP and had the whole podcast going in the first place. Like the other day when you're talking about like getting into Supercross and motocross, it's like, man, the Supercross and motocross guys, they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're making millions of dollars, and there's nothing in off-road that is given really like the return on investment for somebody to come in and pay that much money until it gets out there and there's more eyeballs on it and all that.
Wait a minute. You're telling me, hold on. I don't fall that. Okay, here's the deal. Here's why off-road doesn't make a ton of money as it stands right now today. There's no TV.
Yeah.
If there's a TV deal, then off-roads make a lot more money. Okay, that's number one. But number two, don't tell me that there's not thousands of riders going to certain events. Thousands, hundreds, of riders going to certain events, paying $70, $80, to sign up, it just frustrates me as a ex-professional athlete. I understand it now as a promoter. I get very frustrated when I see 700, 800, 900,000 riders, 2,000, 3,000 riders at an event, and their payouts are less than Full Gases when we only getting 300 max, 350, 302, 305, whatever it is max, and we pay more than them. That frustrates me as being one from the professional athlete side. You are the best off-road racers in the world. You go represent the United States at ISDE and all these things across the country, and you make pennies. Until these riders like a Stu Baylor, I think he's doing it. He's making changes because he understands the game. He's got his own team now. He's got his own sponsors. I don't know what his deal was with Yamaha, but I'm assuming he passed up a lot of money to go do his own thing and take the risk. Until we have more riders in this sport that can stand up and put their foot down and say, I'm not going to race for pennies. I'm the best in the world at what we do, at what I do. I need to be paid, and I think Stu's a big advocate for that. I'm not speaking for him, but I'm saying I think he is a big advocate for driving prices up for these riders because he understands it's his livelihood. He's got I know Stu, obviously his wife, and he's got a newer born the same age as my son. He wants to put food on the table for his family. So the only way to do that is make the best deals possible for himself and his family. So for me, I think that, these guys, these XC1 Pro riders, they're the best in the world. They're racing these events, and I really believe they need to be a little more compensated.
No, I 100% agree, and that's something that I've always preached on here. And like you said, it comes down to the TV deals and the eyeballs, and that's where like all these other sports, the NFL, the NBA, and all that, that's where they're getting all their money from. Is from those. But that being said, one of the common arguments, and I kind of want to get your take on this. Obviously, Stu was on the show on a pretty regular basis last year doing the weekend reviews, and this is a topic him and I got into quite a bit. So I'd love to hear your opinion on it. But like going back to all that stuff, one of the biggest arguments is, well, the riders make their money from the teams. The teams pay them win bonuses. The team pay them salaries. Why is it up to the organization, the race organizations, to pay more money? And while that's true, there's also like, I looked it up one time and did the math, and I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but to win the Bassmaster Classic, it's $500,000. And then I kind of went down even farther than that. So if you make it to the TV show version of professional bowling, it's at least $22,000 plus whatever you win after that. If you win a ping pong event, an international table tennis event, it's a $16,000 prize to win the tournament. So,
Hey, Tisha, I might go enter that because I'm pretty damn good at ping pong.
Exactly. And it's way safer than going 35 miles an hour through the trees.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing. It's like, yeah, they do get the contract. But you look at even the NFL, they're making money on sponsorships, endorsements. MMA, you guys used to be able to make money off of your own sponsorships, and now they bring in other deals that kind of give exclusivity to where you can't even do that anymore. But
yeah, well, I can tell you this: in the old school days of MMA, we can talk. We'll go more into MMA after this, but I made more money in sponsorship sometimes than I did in fighting.
yeah, I mean, I think everybody did. That was one of the biggest things everyone was saying, and why people ended up making the move to Bellator and all that kind of stuff. But real quick, for the off-road world, yes, they're making the majority of their money for the contracts, but that's a different story altogether. The thing is like you said, if you're bringing in thousands of people, if you're bringing in all this revenue, I think then it's a good opportunity to step up the payouts and give more of a percentage, because without the pro riders, you don't have the spectacle and you don't get nearly as much as the support.
Okay, let me ask you this: how many people out there, for example, let's talk Kawasaki. All right. Great band. Actually, their bikes right now, probably the best deal out on the market. $7,500 for a freaking brand new 250. I'm not promoting them here, but I saw that the other day.
It ain't no Beta.
Yeah, whatever. Listen, Beta's the full gas champ, so we got to plug Beta. So, but I'm just saying this. Let's just talk Josh Strang and Kawasaki. How many people out there, look at his social media. He's got a good following, that type of thing. When he posts a picture, how many of these young riders want to be like, oh man, Josh Strang's my favorite rider. I want to ride a Kawasaki like Josh Strang. These obviously brands are making money off of selling bikes. When these brands go out there and they win races, say the Ben Kelly guy who won a couple races last year. Okay, he how many bikes do you think people, these young kids were like, man, Ben Kelly's awesome, I want to be like him, and went out and bought a KTM. So I get that perspective, but at the end of the day, the promoter of the event, if it isn't for those riders, going out there and putting it on the line, how many of those riders are tweeting and posting, if people do tweet anymore? I don't even know if that's a real, oh yeah, Elon Musk bought that. So yeah, it's back in the game. But Instagram and posting pictures, how many of those dudes are posting and then getting their following to come watch them race at the races? That's where I think Stu does a good job marketing himself on his Instagram. He does a really good job of promoting himself, and he has a good following. So people go to these GNCCs, National Enduros, and if he comes to full gas, they're going to come because Stu Baylor is going to be there. They want to see him race. They want to see what he's going to post and that type of thing. So, that brings value to the promoter. And I think that the promoters need to just step up a little bit and just pay a little more. There's got to be at some point, but it also bends back on the teams. These race teams. I'm not going to mention any names, but they can obviously control that too. Say, hey, we're not bringing our racers to your event unless you pay our racers a little more money. Or up the win bonuses. So I think it falls on, one, the promoter, and then two, the teams need to just say, hey, we're not going to bring racers to your race series unless the price of our racers is coming here, type.
Yeah, but if they did that, then they don't have their product and they're not representing their sponsors out on the track, so they're going to lose out on their money by not having the bikes out there.
Yeah, no, they won't.
I think
the riders go where the pros want to go. Would you think that? I mean, that's what I would think. They're at least going to want to go see or be like, hey, I want to race the same courses as a Josh Strang, a Stu Baylor. I know you had Caleb Russell on here. How many people do you think that Caleb Russell would get to come to an event because he's going to be there and they want to see him?
Yeah, I mean, a perfect example of that is one of the last races of the Mideast series last year when they threw out a bunch of money and Caleb showed up, Stu Baylor showed up, Rui Barbosa showed up. Like, all them guys were there. And you could see how many more people were there to see that. So it's no doubt that having, like, the way that East Coast Off-Road works is you sign your contract for GNCC and then you pick a second series. That's how it is. Like it or not, that's how it is. And so that means at GNCC, that's where all of the best riders are. Because if you're making money racing a dirt bike, you're at GNCC. Unless you're like Hardendale and things like that. But
GNCC, I've raced some of their races. It's a great event. There's a shit ton of people, and it's a big party, and it's pretty. Obviously, they've been around for a long time, so they do a great job promoting and that type of thing. But I just think that you're bringing all these good riders. They're the best in the world. I used to be in those shoes, as an MMA fighter, inspiring MMA fighter. I wanted to be like Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture and Matt Hughes and all these guys. I wanted to be like them because I sit there and I watch them fight in the UFC and fight in the cage. And I was like, my God, I can do that. I can beat that guy. I can beat him because I'm a better wrestler than him. And I was in these riders' shoes as an MMA fighter. And I just think that, it's all about making money. This is your livelihood. You're the best in the world. Shouldn't you be compensated a little more? I mean, that's why we're trying at Full Gas. We're truly trying to push the envelope on paying these guys as much as we possibly can. Obviously, we got to run it like a business. We got to make money, or else we can't continue to do this year in, year out. We're not a charity, but we're going to pay the max that we can potentially pay these riders because, and hopefully, the amateur riders and everybody will come and support us because then they know that we're giving back to the community. And that's what it's about for me listen, to make an extra couple bucks running Full Gas isn't going to change my life, isn't going to make or break me. I have another successful business that crushes it. And, I work 24/7 on this thing. But I think that, my biggest purpose to get involved in Full Gas was to figure out how to get these riders to make a little bit more money. And I think we did that last year. I mean, obviously, ask Evan Smith, ask Ben Nelko, ask these guys. We took care of them when we could, and if our numbers are good, then our payouts are going to be better. And I know that Hooper used to do that a lot. I'm thinking that we may pay the top 5 in Pro 1. Most people only pay top 3. We may go and I'm still looking at numbers right now and just waiting to see if our numbers are good at Full Gas. We pay more. It's just going to be that simple. That's how it's going to work. I want to make sure that, hey, you come and race Full Gas. We get a good turnout. We crush it, and you're going to get better payouts. And it's about supporting the riders. At the end of the day, these young and up and coming riders need to go and probably have some conversations with, these up and younger A riders that are super fast. What is it? That 250A class is they're ripping. These dudes need to go and have conversations with the Evan Smiths, the Stu Baylors, the Ben Kellys, and see how this process works so that these young riders can understand how it goes and maybe possibly get representation to represent these riders, to go into these contract negotiations like we had. I mean, I had Zinkin Entertainment, Dwayne Zinkin and Bob Cook to go in and have discussions with the UFC and say, we're not signing a new contract unless we get paid X. And at that point, maybe that's what it needs to. It might take these young riders to get together with a management company to come in and help them grow this sport because it's a livelihood, and I was in those shoes as a young fighter, broke joke, you know what I mean? And just wanted to fight. And, when I first got into MMA, and we'll switch over to that for a second, my manager, Dwayne Zinkin, asked me, and I kept telling him, I was like, man, I just want to make money, Dwayne. I just want to make money, and I go, kid, he told me, oh, I'll make you money. And he goes, He goes, "Can you win? All you got to do is win. All you got to do is win, Josh." And I said, "Dwayne, I've been winning my whole life, man. I've been my whole life. This is gonna be easy for me, you know." And it's not to be cocky in a sense, but it was just my mentality. I've been winning as a kid, in wrestling and football and whatever it was, whatever sport I took on, I tried to. I said, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out how to win, and that was the same perspective of MMA. And I just my biggest thing was I want to be famous. I want to win. I want to make money because the way I looked at it, the more famous you are, the more money you're going to make. So that was my perspective of coming into mixed martial arts back in the day. I was just like I just wanted to make money, man. That was it, and because I knew that is my livelihood, and I come from you know. I come from a farm in Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. We had a Woody as a kid, a station wagon. Everybody knows about those. If you're born in the 70s and 80s, and we didn't have anything. We had an orange Chevy Chevette. I remember that thing, but we were broke, and it wasn't because we just were poor. We lived on a farm, but yeah, we were richly blessed, I guess, in love with my grandparents and my mom and my family and everybody. But it was just financially, it was tough times as a kid. And, my biggest thing was how the hell do I get out of there? And I used athletics to get me out of there and get me to where I am today. And like I said, when I met Dwayne Zinkin and Bob Cook, it was a game changer because I knew that, their background and getting them involved in negotiating contracts and getting things better for me as an MMA fighter was the success, and it was a great team. We had a hell of a run too. Man, we had a hell of a run. We had some good, amazing nights, some fun nights, and just reminiscing on just times. I mean, I remember, like I said earlier in the podcast, I fought this one time up in I think it was like Reno, Nevada, and there was two fights, um, and Dwayne Zinkin and Bob Cook and Josh Thompson, they all flew in for these fights, and this is my first two fights. I didn't have any training, and I was just mean, I was just nasty. I was like, I gotta kill these dudes. They're trying to food off my table. You know what I mean? Like I was just like so pumped up that I went out there and
Wait, hold on. How much MMA had you done at that point? Like outside of wrestling, how much MMA had you done?
zero.
That's what I was wondering. So
Yeah, zero. I just went out. I literally punched a bag maybe once or twice and said, this is it, man. I'm done coaching wrestling. I was coaching wrestling at the University of Buffalo. I went out there and took these two fights and I said, I'm done. I'm done with wrestling. These young kids got more problems than I can handle. I was like, I need to go figure out how to make money, and that goes back to the conversation Dwayne asked me, I said, man, Dwayne, I need to make money. He goes, can you win? And I basically said, I've been winning my whole life, D. Let's get this. So went out there in Reno, Nevada. So check this out. This is how old school MMA is. All right. Two fights in one day as a little tournament. I don't remember how many people in it. So went out there and just pummeled the first dude, choked him out, in a guillotine. And then the second dude, I knocked him out in like freaking couple minutes. And then I'm like, all right, I made what I think it was $250 for two fights. And I was like, all right, give me my money. The promoter didn't even have the money to pay me. Can you imagine that? So Dwayne Zinkin, he flew over on he's very wealthy, very successful business, grandfather, his father. They flew over on their private plane. He goes, don't worry, man, I'm going to pay you. And I'm going to give you a $250 bonus. So I think I made like $500. And I was happier than pig shit. I was like, all right, that's a start. I only gotta win 250 more thousand of those.
what year was that?
Oh my God. That was probably like 2004, 2005, somewhere around 2005.
Dang.
So I didn't start fighting until I was close to almost like 27 to 30, somewhere in that range. I'd have to go back and look at my age, but I started late.
So how long was it before, like, how many fights did you have going on to the Ultimate Fighter? Because that's what a lot of people, especially in the off-road world, and I know a lot of this is going to be off-road people that are listening to this, and that's kind of like what we talked about beforehand about introducing the dirt bike Josh to the MMA people and introducing the MMA Josh to the dirt bike people. But how many fights did you have before you got onto the Ultimate Fighter? And back then, it was gnarly to get on the show. Like, what did you have to go through to get on the very first season of the Ultimate Fighter?
Okay, so I was coaching at the University of Buffalo at the time, and 2005 came around, and Bob Cook had a great relationship with Dana White, and essentially he was looking. They were looking to do this Ultimate Fighter show, this reality TV show, and I was thinking, I was like, oh shit, okay, this might be my opportunity, because this was like big time, like all the reality TV shows, like what was that one on MTV?
Road
There was a
Rules.
show, what was it?
Real World or Road
Real,
Rules or
yes, the Real World.
all the
The Real World.
challenge shows.
The Real World remember the one at the Palms?
Yeah.
Stayed in that room a lot of times. So we'll talk about that offline. But, but that was a long time ago. Those days have since passed. But okay, so the Real World was big and popular, and then you saw all these reality TV shows popping up. What was it, like one where they do the Castaway thing,
Survivor.
All these shows were popping up, and this was like, and Dana White called Bob Cook and said, "Hey, you have anybody that has a personality, a character that can be, come help us shoot this pilot for this potential reality TV show with Greg Peligian, I think his name was. He was the guy that was doing all these reality TV shows. So they said, "Hey, can you put together a video?" So I was like, "Okay, what do I got to do to get myself noticed?" I was like, "Oh my God." So I said, "All right." I lived in Buffalo, New York at the time, and I was like, "Okay, I have street bikes." I was like, "Let's ride some wheelies on my street bikes. Let's talk, and then let's basically dye my hair just so I stand out, something different." So, and I remember a guy by the name of Kevin Randleman. He had blonde hair,
Yeah.
ripped dude. He was a little beast wrestler.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and fighter. He fought in Pride all over the place. But so I dyed my hair, and then essentially I did this video, and they loved it, and they had me come in and help them shoot. We shot videos of, training and just personality and talking of that type of stuff for pitching the show to Spike TV at the time. So I was basically one of those dudes that was on from the early day, right from the beginning. So we pitched the show. I helped them pitch the show. You know what I mean? I made a couple bucks. Didn't have any contract with them, and then literally a couple months later, it was like, "Hey, you want to be on this show? Here's the deal." And I was like, "Yeah, let's go. Let's do it. This is my opportunity to get out, and just start becoming a full-time professional athlete again." Obviously I was, training wrestling for the Olympics at the time. And I was like, Olympics ain't going to make me a penny. So, I was like, let's do it. So I took off, to Vegas, and I went and we filmed The Ultimate Fighter. I think we filmed it in like 2004, and then it aired in 2005. It was a great opportunity to obviously get noticed. And basically I kind of use that as a platform to, you got to do certain things to make yourself known on the TV. You know what I mean? You act kind of a fool sometimes. But, I did certain things, and, I wouldn't take it back at this point. So I think at the end of the day, it paid off, and, I figured out how to win. I had no training whatsoever going on to the Ultimate Fighter. Very limited, just raw, mean. I was a lot meaner then than I was, than I am today. That's for sure. So yeah, I got that, and essentially just took off, and Ultimate Fighter blew up, man. It was insane. I couldn't go anywhere, and then I was like, you go places and you just be getting recognized, and people want pictures and this and that, and it was after the Ultimate Fighter, the finale. It was nuts. It was crazy. And then you go with like you're like, oh man, I'm pretty famous, and I'm like thinking I go places with Chuck Liddell, and it'd be like Michael Jackson walking down the street or Michael Jordan. You'd have like Michael Jordan coming up and wanting Chuck Liddell's autograph. And I
Damn.
was like, yeah, I'm nothing. I'm just a little guy compared to this guy. He was, it was insane what that dude, you know what I mean? Like what they would do with him. Like he couldn't go anywhere. He would just be like, Chuck, they loved him and they still love him, and uh, yeah, just the old school times was pretty amazing. It's MMA now doesn't even compare. Doesn't even compare. You have all these great fighters. Obviously, I couldn't even tell you. To be honest with you, this is how far removed I am. I couldn't and I couldn't even tell you not one single UFC title holder right now currently. Couldn't even tell you because they've commercialized it, they've watered the sport down, and they all look the same. They all wear the same outfits. I couldn't tell you not one single UFC fighting champion at all. And quite honest with you, I can only tell you one champion that I know in Bellator, and that's Bader, because I saw him a couple months ago down at Fort Bragg at the Special Forces Charitable Trust Foundation. And the only reason I knew he was the champion is because he said he's fighting in a couple weeks against Fedor. So and I obviously it was a pretty cool event. Actually, Cain Velasquez was there with us too, so it was pretty cool,
Oh wow.
pretty surreal. Yeah, yeah. This was like literally about a month ago down in at Southern Pines. He was there supporting Oak Grove. My buddy Mark owns the company, and he was there. He flew Kane in and Bader and those type of guys in. So it was pretty cool to spend some time with him and just obviously reminisce about old times with me and Kane being roommates. We lived in an apartment with Bob Cook, and literally in that apartment I had a big air blow up mattress. This is how poor we were. We were broke jokes in the beginning of this sport. Big blow up air mattress that would go flat every night, and I'd have to pump it up. And then Kane slept on a SpongeBob SquarePants single little twin. He was like his feet hung off about that far. Just the mattress. It's me and him sharing the room, and we were talking about that last week or a month ago. So it's pretty cool, obviously to reminisce with old Kane and get to see him. So, yeah, he's going through some challenging times, but he feels pretty good, and he's just happy to be around his family again. So.
Man, as soon as you said that, just thinking about everything going on in his world, I can't even imagine all that.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty awesome. But obviously Ryan Bader and Kane have obviously wrestled together back in the day. So it's those two. It was really really cool to have them. All of us together that day. So, but yeah, that's a different story. We can talk about that. But
Is there is there any guys like I like even talking to you about especially like some of this celebrity boxing and all that stuff that they have going on these days, and I know that you kind of don't watch the sport and like you said can't name a champion. Is there anybody from like the MMA days that you still keep up with like on a regular basis?
Yeah, it's limited. But obviously Daniel Cormier, I see him, every now and again, and text with him or message him on Instagram, and tell him yeah. So DC was you know I coached against George St. Pierre on Ultimate Fighter, 12, 13, 19, 50, 5,000, whatever it is.
One of those.
And, yeah, one of them. And DC, I brought DC in as my assistant coach, and he was fighting at Strikeforce at the time.
Yeah.
And so I kind of brought him in into the realm, to introduce him to obviously the UFC, and I think DC's career, obviously, he's in the Hall of Fame, speaks for itself. Such a solid dude. He's family oriented. I mean, just DC's the type of guy that's infectious. He kind of reminds me of like a Jerome Bettis of MMA. Just everybody loves him, and he's such a solid human being. And I'll keep up with him every now and again. Obviously, Bob Cook and Dwayne Zinkin, I talk to those guys regularly. It's just Yeah, but like I said, I've been very far removed. My current industry and what I'm working on now is just it's totally far removed from where they're at. Phil Davis, every now and again I'll get to see him. My company had him come to Fort Huachuca, Arizona once, to do an appearance with Phil there, when we were working on a contract out there with Czech Defense. So yeah, I mean, just I'll get to chat with them here, people every now and again. But my schedule, I got a 16-month-old, business. I got a lot to look after. Quite honestly, and with the wife, and she kicks ass on that front. Lets me get to the office as much as I can, and she puts up with this full gas BS. Of us setting up these tracks for days out there. So she's a trooper, and without her, we wouldn't be where we're at. And she crushes it on the side with our son Jet. So and like I said, I try to pick up the slack where she lets off and needs a break. I'll step in and get him up here, and he's the next little ripper. So he's either going to be a punch in the bag yesterday at 16 months, so I don't know if he's going to like dirt bikes or MMA. So.
Yeah, that was cool. You even got a shout out in DC's Hall of Fame speech, because really you got him into fighting, right?
Yeah. I got DC. That's you send my check next week too, DC, if you're listening. It's funny because on the altar, yeah, I mean he's such a good dude, and I've known him. We wrestled together. Obviously, he wrestled at Oklahoma State, and I wrestled at the Edinburgh University, and under Coach Flynn, and he was under John Smith. And my coach actually, Tim Flynn, rode John Smith for 2 minutes. So just so you know, and then John Smith in the third period, I'm on neutral. But that's Tim Flynn's fame to claim. But I've known DC for a very long time through the wrestling community, and when he came to AKA back in the day up in San Jose, oh my God,
that's a lot of rhyming.
Yeah, he was so fat, man. I was like, he comes out there. I was like, this guy, the first day, hospital, dehydrated, overheating. Bob Cook IVing him up in the hospital. I mean, oh my God, he was so embarrassing. I was like, see, Bob Cook, sorry for recommending this guy, man. He's not the same as he used to be. I promise. And then he's obviously he's in life you only freaking lose if you quit, and he ain't no quitter. He figured it out. He's freaking Olympic on the Olympic team a couple times, and so he was one of America's greatest collegiate wrestlers of all time. I mean, he was awesome. When it came to that, the only other person that was better than him was in DC. You'll probably kill me for this, but that's that Sanderson kid. That dude was pretty good.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, DC was a good dude, and we had some good times together, and I'm just happy to see him be successful as he is. He's learned to play the game a lot better than I did as far as the political side of MMA. He's probably BFFs with Dana White, whereas me and Dana a long time. So he did it well, and he loves commentating. He loves being part of it. You can see it every day in his podcast how excited he is about MMA, and he loves it. So I'm really happy for him. There was a kid on our show that was with us. His name was David Spitz, for example. This is awesome history. This is not many people know about this. DC's like, man, Cost, I've never choked anybody out before. I was like, really? I was like, hey, Spitz, get over here. And, I was like, get over here. DC, I got something for you. I said, DC, put the rear naked choke on him. Put the rear naked choke on him. This is crazy. We were in the hallway at TUF, in the TUF building in the hallway in Las Vegas. And so I was like, Dave, just chill. He's not going to tap you out, but I'm going to let him squeeze you up a little bit just to let it feel, So he grabs Spitz by the neck and he starts squeezing. And he's like squeezing him, like, dude, he's out. He goes, and he dropped him, and dude goes, clunk, whacked his head on the floor, and I'm like, oh my God, DC, you killed him. So for the whole next 2 days, Fitz is puking. He had a freaking concussion. He's sitting in the house with ice on his head. I'm like, oh my God. So these are just inside stories that nobody even ever heard of. But these are just, that was things at TUF that DC, I let him choke out, an attorney of all things. So his first choke out was in the TUF building. So back in 2000, well, whatever it was, 2012.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go.
Dude.
So,
what was it like filming the first season? Because I know you filmed, or you did a season as a contender, and then you did a season as a coach. How much did it change between the first season to when you were coaching it? And like, what were those experiences like?
The first, we were basically like lab rats, in that TUF.
And there were some characters in that house.
Oh yeah, there was. You had Chris Levin, Diego Sanchez was crazy as shit. He's still crazy as shit. I don't see his stuff, but he was out there, man. He's like aliens. Wow. But yeah, we were test lab rats in that house. They kept us for so long. In that house, I don't even know, it was a couple months in the house, filming. They could probably go back right now and make a whole new show that nobody ever even seen footage from because they had so much footage. So yeah, it was miserable on that show because we were stuck there for so long.
And it was like no phones or anything too, right?
No, nothing. Just a ton of alcohol.
Yeah, that's what about.
You put a bunch of dudes with free alcohol every single night, you're gonna have drama, and that was their whole thing. They wanted it to be like kind of like that MTV show, where you have all these explosive morons in there going crazy, and boy, we did,
the real world, but everyone has the ability to kill each other.
Yeah. Yes, basically, if you died on that show, you died on that show. Sorry. So that's the same thing with our show. With the Ultimate Fighter, it was cool though, because it gave us an opportunity and a platform to be able to build mixed martial arts. We were the foundation. That group was the foundation of building mixed martial arts. And you can obviously listen to, Joe Rogan talk about it. He's very educated about it in the history of MMA and the UFC. If it wasn't for that show, would the UFC be where it is today? That's the question. That's the $1 million question. And, we were the foundation that helped build and helped basically bring the sport to the forefront. And being a part of that was obviously is pretty cool. I think that, that group of guys that fought on there stuck around for a very long time. Ultimate Fighter 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Do you really see any of those household names that came out of those extra shows? There's a couple, but every single one of the guys on TUF 1, everybody knew their name.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
And so that's one of the things I actually had like written down to talk about is like, yeah, sure, a lot of the winners went on to have success, or people in the finales went to have success in other seasons of the show. But just like you mentioned, it seems like almost everybody on that first season ended up being the household names and ended up having long careers and ended up making it last. Like, what do you think was different to where like that group came out to be the way that they did versus like all the other seasons?
Well, I think one, they picked it off of Raw fighters. In the beginning, because they didn't know, and then they started picking it off of characters. You know what I mean? It's about ratings. It's about TV. It's about, that type of thing. So when that first season, there was a lot of raw fighters on there. Dudes that had a lot of fights. Forrest Griffin had fights. Mike Swick had a ton of fights. Chris Leben, had a ton of fights. Chris Leben and Mike Swick actually fought each other prior to that in the I think, was it called WEC?
Yeah.
In the day. So, there was a lot of raw fighters on that show. And I think that's the difference. You had, obviously I didn't know anything about fighting. I was just saying, man, I got to figure out how to make money. I don't want to be, stuck in the middle of the road at some point with no upside. So, I was all in on this sport when it came time to it, time to commit. So, but the biggest thing I think is there was a lot of raw, true fighters on that show versus the other shows. I'm sure there were some other fighters on the shows, but you got to look at the talent in the guys that are just mean. I mean, think about Chris Leben, for example. He was a mean dude. He put people to sleep. So, you know what I mean? Like, so you have guys like that on there that were raw and just, obviously I was just a hell of an athlete at the point, and I just trying to figure out how to fight. I didn't know anything on the Ultimate Fighter show. And then I started figuring out how to figure out how to fight.
And so one thing that you mentioned is like literally the season finale of that season with Stephen Bonner and Forrest Griffin, like that fight being live on Spike TV and that fight being the way that it went, like that is like what people point to as why the UFC and why MMA got so big, that fight. And so you kind of lived right in the middle of it. I mean, you lived literally with those guys, and then you were in MMA before that fight happened, and you were in MMA after that fight happened. How soon did you see that transition after you guys wrapped the show and the show premiered live and everyone got to see it? Like, how quickly did you see the sport change and where you were in the sport change after that moment?
Oh my God, it was after the first episode. Because a couple episodes in, it was that drama with me and Chris Leben, and then I think we were the first fight on the whole show. Originally, our contract said that we weren't going to fight on the show.
Like anybody or you two specifically?
Nobody was going to. Nobody was going to fight on the show. And then Dana White came in and had this big speech. What are you effing fighters? Blah, 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 blah. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, there was going to be in our contracts, there was no fighting. And then they got halfway through filming the show and they're like, wait a minute, we can't do this show without fighting. And then they figured it out with the commission in Las Vegas. It was really tricky. And then, and then they forced us into signing these contracts, without having representation. It was like, hey, you going to let this manager laugh you up, blah, blah, blah. I was like, man, give me it. I need to make money, So I just, signed a blank check basically, on there, and we ended up fighting.
So did you get paid for being on the show?
Pennies. Yeah. Pennies.
Any extra for the fights on the show?
I think we might have got bonuses for fighting on the show. I can't remember, honestly. I've been a couple mini 2 times. But I obviously, we got stuck into 3-year contracts after it because we got forced into signing something on the show without management. And, it was very unethical, and I'm sure it could have been protested, whatever it is with attorneys and probably got out of it. But we were just so young. We just wanted to make money, and this goes back to having people read your contract before you sign them, and goes back to, making sure that you have representation, when it comes time to this. And, with Zinkin Entertainment, after our first contract, I was making 15, 20 times more money, in sponsorships on my first several fights rather than what I was making in the fights. I didn't give 2 shits about the fight money. I was like, man, let's get me sponsors. And Dwayne and Bob did an amazing job on that. We were doing appearances everywhere, all over the country. We were doing a lot of appearances, getting paid for all kinds of stuff, man. It was like Fast and the Furious, man. It was pretty wild. It went quick too. From the first show, I believe me and Chris Leben were the first fight live on, well, not live, but on that Spike TV show. I think I'd have to go back and look at it, but I think that was the case. So, and there was obviously all that drama where I sprayed him with the water hose and he went crazy and busted the window, and yeah, it's a lot of fun nights there. History. Wow. So.
Man, that's gotta be crazy to look back and reminisce on. But I mean, you're talking about not having any MMA experience and kind of relying on the wrestling and stuff going into it. How much did you actually learn on the show, like being on Chuck Liddell's team and then bringing in coaches and you guys working together? Like, how much knowledge did you gain from the show?
I would say the biggest knowledge I said is, oh my God, I hope I can make it through this thing without getting my ass. And learn how to fight after this show.
Yeah.
Because the second you had obviously Diego Sanchez was like 17-0 or 18-0. He was fighting so many times. I had like one or two fights. What did I have? One, two, maybe three, four fights before that, maybe. And with no training. It was just basically, hey, go and fight and get it done. I think my first fight was like January. I'm looking at Sherdog right now. It says like January 2004, April 2004.
Yeah.
So early on. And then the Ultimate Fighter was October 13th, October 30th. Two fights that month, one with Diego and one with Chris Lieben. So yeah, I mean, I had like four fights, but I had no training. It was just, hey, wrestle and figure it out, and obviously I got to train with Diego on the show and train with Chuck and train with everybody on our team, to figure out how, obviously try to learn things and learn how to obviously, defend certain chokes and, that type of thing. Got to work with the striking coaches and everybody on the team. So.
But I mean, even like sitting there talking about, I actually had Sherdog pulled up here too, but fighting October 13th and then 2 weeks later fighting again, like that's such a brutal turnaround time. Well, I guess with not quite as bad as fighting two people in the same night, but still, I mean, having that quick of a turnaround with two pro fights against Chris Lieben and Diego Sanchez.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you let's go up through that Sherdog thing. Let's go 2006.
Yeah, let's run through these.
Let's look how many fights I had in 2006. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2007 April 2000. Yeah, I mean, I 2008 I had 3-4 fights. So I was very active. To have 4 fights in a year, that's very, very active.
Yeah.
I took so many short notice fights. Let's look at it. Frank Trigg was kind of relatively a short notice fight. Thiago Alves took that on a 2-week notice. Let's see. I'm just trying to think here. Yeah, I took Thiago Alves because Diego Sanchez was supposed to take that fight. That might have been a week notice on that one, the October 25th, 2008 fight. And then December 10th, right after it, I said, Dana, the only way I'm taking this fight is if you get me the Ultimate Fight night at the Fight for the Troops, and I'll be the main event. Do not cancel this fight. I'm taking both of those fights because I was already scheduled for that December 10th fight. And I said, if you guys screw out the 10th fight, I'm going to be pissed. So, so I basically took that fight on short notice in Chicago. I remember that. I got the shit kicked out of my leg that
with
night.
With Thiago?
Yeah, he booted. I had bruises for a month. Still when it was like close to November 25th, I still had bruises on my leg from him kicking me so many times.
Oh my goodness.
That was, he's a little bruiser. And then I went and fought for the Troops. That was probably one of the most memorable fights in my life. My career was fighting there at Fort Bragg for the Troops. We raised a ton, like $4 million for them, and that was just such an honor. That place was nuts. It was crazy loud too. So that was probably one of the better fights. And then fought guy like an old school guy. I mean, shit. Look at Frank Trigg. He fought for the title against Matt Hughes a couple times, and I had a fight against him. let's see who else is tough on there. Anthony Johnson, obviously rest in peace, Anthony. With him passing away is such a sad event. Got a chance to fight him. He was one of the
Man,
most
that
feared.
was.
He was one of the most feared fighters out there, and even Daniel Cormier would say it.
How did he make welterweight, man?
I have no clue. He was a monster. I have no clue how he made welterweight. So, but yeah, I had a chance to sling with him, and we were fight of the night. So I took home an extra 75 G's that night. That was a big payday. I like that one. Let's see here. Let's see. Paul Daly, I got to fight him. Yeah, that was a good one. That muggy little guy.
Yes. Yeah. How'd that one end?
Yeah, I got him decision, but I probably should have finished him. He wasn't very good.
Well, no. So that was one of the funny stories too. Like the first night I met you, when Strang said that I like wrestled and did some stuff, and you like kind of got in stance. You're like, oh yeah, we'll stand up. I was like, man, then the only thing I could do is be like Paul Daly and hit you when you're not looking.
Yeah.
How did all that go down? 'Cause for people that are listening that don't know, after the fight was completely over, he just kind of walked across the octagon and ended up like sucker punching you after the fight was completely over and got thrown out of the UFC for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we did not like each other at all, and that was a big build up for that fight, and the winner of that fight was going to go on to fight George St. Pierre next. So it was in Montreal, Canada, and was such a big. I mean, the place was sold out, packed. It was crazy, and he was bad mouthing me the whole time. He did all these like I guess maybe Instagram or Twitter things and Facebook, whatever it was, and he was putting all these things out to have people draw certain pictures about me and all kinds of craziness. And so we had bad words, obviously throughout the whole fight. And I was every time I took him down and held him down, I would just hold him. He's like, "Let me up." He would, he called me all kinds of names, and I'd be like, if you're a man, you get up. You know what I mean? And I was talking in his ear about his mom and, doing all kinds of bad things, kinds of words. And, we'll keep it PG tonight. And so obviously he was so frustrated because he wanted to expect me to stand up and box him. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good strategy. Oh, yeah. Okay. And so he was so frustrated at the end of the fight, and it wasn't that he punched me that got him kicked out. It's what he said to Dana White afterwards. I think that's what he disrespected Dana after. I think that's what got him kicked out. So, and quite honestly, I haven't really it's been a long time since I spoke to Dana, but I can tell you this. One thing about that man is he's a hard worker. And the other thing about him is if he says something, like he says, "Hey man, I'm going to take care of you. Or I'm going to do something," he does it. Definitely one thing that I can say about him, even though we haven't talked, heck, it's probably since 2015, the last voicemail that he left me, since it's the last time we talked. So, and since it's been a long time, but it's one thing I can say about him. If he says he's going to take care of something, he's going to do something, he definitely does it.
Was that last time you guys talked, was that on good terms or bad terms?
Oh, I know where you're going with. That wasn't so good terms. That's for it was not on good terms, and quite honestly, it's kind of childish, probably on both of our parts, but I signed with Bellator the same day that they dropped their Reebok deal, to take over all the sponsors, and my news was with me signing with Bellator was bigger than his, and I had actually Josh Koscheck shirt, Reebok did, and I sent him a message and I said, "You guys better take that shit down because you don't have my licensing rights to do that." So so they all blew up on it, and they should be thanking me because their Reebok Cabasco was horrible when they dropped it. It was names all spelled wrong of fighters, and it was embarrassing. And he should be thanking me, and they should have probably paid me a lot of money because I took the media outlets covered me more than they did their Reebok deal, and I think that kind of upset them. So, and he didn't think that, he expected me to re-sign with the UFC and end my career there, which would have been nice. But at the end of the day, my management looked out for me. And at the end of the day, fighting, and this sounds crazy, is fighting was the easiest money I ever made in my life. The easiest money. At the time, I was like, oh man, this is hard money because you're training so hard. But at the time, looking back at it right now, fighting is the easiest money I ever made in my life.
Mm.
And I tried to collect as much as I possibly could.
That's such a big thing though, because there's fight night and then there's the months that go in making it to that fight.
Still easiest.
Why would you say it's the easiest?
Where can you go today in Joe Biden's America and in general today? Where can you go today and make a couple $100,000 in a couple months?
The local woods race.
Woods racing. Sure. I'm a promoter. You can't fool me. But I'm just saying in general. Like, let's be real. And look at my years. In 2007, won 2 fights. 2008, 1, 2, 3, 4 fights. 2009, 1, 2, 3. 2010, 1, 2. 2011, and obviously I got a little hurt from there for a little bit. 2012 too. Where can you go and fight 4 times in a year and make very, very good money? Where? And like I said, it was the easiest money I ever made, and I tried to do it as long as I possibly could and collect as much as I possibly could. So, I may have fought a little longer than I needed to, but they kept paying me. And management,
Tough to say no.
Man, yeah, it's very hard to say no when you're making good money. It's very hard. And I, like I said, my career probably went a little bit longer than it should have, but they kept paying me. So I was like, all right. I never changed. I always trained my ass off for every fight, even though I was, obviously not what I was early on in my fight career. I always train my ass off, and because there's so many fans out there that deserve to see the best product that you possibly could put out there. So,
man, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this on the podcast, but when you look around, like, sure, and you may not have seen any of it, you may have seen it, but like you see guys like Jake Paul and Logan Paul, like Jake Paul, they're YouTubers. They started out on Vine, they're YouTubers, and now, I mean, he's selling out pay-per-views, selling out arenas, fighting Tyron Woodley, fighting Ben Askren, fighting Anderson Silva, fighting all of these guys. And you're just sitting here saying, hold on, let me get there. Like, fighting being the easiest money that you've made. Has there been any part of you that's like, man, let me go fight a YouTuber, go make $1 million? Like Tyron Woodley said, he made more in that boxing match against a YouTuber where he got flatlined than he made in any UFC fight. Like, there's got to be some of that that's enticing, especially like your legacy, your name, your career. There's got to be a part of that. It's like, man, that'd be a good payday.
Nope. Zero. I never want to. Never want to punch anybody. Never want to get punched again. It's beyond me, man. I'd rather. Yeah. And one, I don't need the money bad enough. I make good money. I have very successful businesses, and it's not about the money for me. It wouldn't be about any. Yeah, I just don't want to punch anybody. Unless I have to. So, but who wants to see a 46-year-old old man in there with gray hair, gray beard, fighting a young YouTuber kid? And what the heck is Vine?
Vine? You don't remember Vine?
No.
Vine was TikTok before TikTok.
And what is a YouTuber? What is that?
They make a lot of money by just making YouTube videos.
Is he like a rapper or something? Singer? Dancer?
No, just makes just funny videos. Now, like, I don't know. They got all sorts of different companies, but yeah, they got their start by Vine. Vine was 7-second videos. And you just make a 7-second video, and then they brought that over to YouTube, and then they make all the YouTube videos. And now, I mean, like the older brother fought Floyd Mayweather. The younger brother just beat Anderson Silva.
What? Anderson Silva's like 60 years old.
I know. That's what you were talking about. Your age, Anderson Silva's even older.
See, he must have did bad things with his money and got broke. He did a couple bucks.
Dude, it's wild. It's crazy to see, especially because they like it keeps going after like the old school MMA guys.
Wait, you said he fought Ben Askren?
Yeah, that was his first like fighter that he fought.
Is a hell of a wrestler. Okay,
Yeah.
Hell of a wrestler.
Yeah,
That good wrestler. But Ben Askren could knock a fly out.
yeah, and it was a straight up like Queensberry rules boxing match.
What?
So I think everyone kind of expected, and then him and Tyron.
Did he knock him out?
Do what? Oh yeah, dude, like bad, like sack of potatoes on the mat.
Did Ben Askren make a bunch of money?
Bunch of money.
Oh, good for him then.
That's what I'm saying. They all made over $1 million. But then that set up the storyline of Tyron being Ben's like old roommate and friend and college wrestling part. And then Tyron fought him, lost. And then Tyron fought him again, lost again.
Wait, Tyron Woodley fought him twice?
Twice.
Really?
And lost both times.
Really?
He got knocked out the first time.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, dude, I don't get on social media very often, and I don't follow combat sports that much. So I'm in no man's. When you have a 16-month-old, you'll see.
Yeah. But man, like speaking about like check defense, and you mentioned like fighting for the troops and that being so important to you. And one of the things that a lot of people can see is going back to ever since the beginning. It seems like you've always had Oak Grove Technologies on your shorts, and now Oak Grove Technologies is a sponsor of Full Gas, and that I think. Well, I mean, you can tell us better, but I think that roundabout led to check defense and what you do now and your company. So where did your ties with the military begin, and how did that lead into your company and what you do now?
Well, I mean, obviously, I've always been a big supporter of our military and supporting them. And, the passion has always been there. A lot of my close friends now, and, I've met a lot of people throughout my fighting career that have served, and, and the passion has always been there to support. Like I said, I fought for the out at Miramar for the troops there. I fought at Fort Bragg. And it's just always been an honor to give back to the men and women that served and provide freedom for our country. So, I met Mark Gross in Oak Grove, and at my UFC fight against George St. Pierre back in the day when we fought out in Las Vegas through Bob Cook and Dwayne Zinkin, and he was doing all this military contracting stuff, and essentially we had a great relationship. I was one of the first sponsors that he did, and we were doing a lot of stuff for around military bases, just doing marketing and PR, and just kind of trying to brand Oak Grove around the country and different military bases, and build relationships. And essentially Mark, basically asked me if, what am I going to do when I retire? And I said, I'm going to retire. And he goes, no, really, what are you going to do? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be retired. He goes, why don't you start a business like mine? I said, I really don't know much about your business. He goes, well, you're an entrepreneur. You have a bunch of other businesses. Let's talk about it. So we got involved with each other and had some discussions. One year at, we were in New Year's up in Vail, and, and within a couple months we were rocking, and company was set up, and and I did this while I was fighting, so I was transitioning from fighting to something else. So I had obviously this business for quite some time, and on the latter years of my career, we were working a lot of stuff together and just trying to network and build relationships, and met some very awesome people throughout my career, and I could throw out some pretty awesome names of some pretty key and high up generals that just have been awesome, supporters. And and it's been a pretty spectacular ride for me in starting Check Defense. And the biggest thing is, the biggest satisfaction I get is whenever, HR sends me a message saying, hey, we just hired another veteran, to, fill that position. And that's the biggest satisfaction for me, is knowing that, that we're still helping these guys, keeping them in the fight, and that's the biggest satisfaction for me, is every day whenever, we get a new hire, and I know that they're a veteran. It's just something about it, that just touches my heart. And, I want to give back to the men and women that serve. And that's the biggest deal, is, and those that are still serving, we're supporting the warfighter, every day. And it's awesome. I love to be a part of that. And, I wake up every single day and grind. Some days, we're working big opportunities. It's, the wife, she pulls red eye just as well, with the little guy, and it's a grind. We could be working on opportunities for 30, 60, up to 2 years sometimes, before we can even get a proposal out the door to solicit that RFP. So with that, but yeah, I mean, with Mark's influence at Oak Grove Technology, I wouldn't probably be in this business. That's for sure. He has visions. That a lot of people in this business that don't see, and he's been very successful. Sure, I'm thinking he's probably got 700 or 800, 900 employees. So they crush it. They're a good company, and I just obviously inspired to be him. He when I was fighting, he inspired to be me, and now it's like I'm retired. I inspired to be. So
That's awesome. So
yeah.
for those that don't know, like, what exactly does Check Defense do? Like, what all are you guys involved in that you're allowed to talk about?
Yeah, we do a lot of training services for the military. From shooting packages to role players to interpreters, translators, UAS instructors, maintainers. We do a number of different services. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a pretty cool thing to obviously be able to talk about it, from perspective. This year was a big year this past year was a big year for us. We won some pretty cool awards, and, I got a message on LinkedIn from a gentleman that we once hired, or we were looking at trying to hire, and he was working in the Pentagon, and he goes, hey, why's your logo in the Pentagon? You know what I mean? I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. We won some pretty cool awards this year from being a small business that reaches back, and it's basically the employer support freedom award. So Lloyd Austin every year awards so many companies, and he's the Secretary of Defense. He awards so many companies every year that gives back to our men and women that serve, and it's part of the National Guard. We hire a lot of National Guard people. So one of our National Guard employees. Uh, Recommended us for this award, and they come and they interview me, and they interviewed some people in our company, and they took us to the next round. So you have 13 companies every year that win this award. So we're one of those 13. So it's pretty prestigious honor to be able to do that, to have that and be awarded. And it just shows the testament of the people that we hire. I like to hire a lot like-minded people that are just grinders, hard workers, and put their head down and grind. And I think that it starts from obviously me leading by example, all the way down to everybody in our organization.
Dang. So when you were getting it started and stuff, when you were still fighting and still in your career, was it always based out of North Carolina, or when did that whole transition to you coming here?
Once I came to North Carolina was probably right around February of 2017. So yeah, it was gone. We were doing a couple of years, on the West Coast out in California, and then we moved over here to North Carolina because I just figured that uh, DC's the mecca for government contracting, and obviously PO Stride and ACC Orlando down in Florida are big ones. And you have SOCOM, you have Fort Bragg, you have Camp Lejeune, you have those Marines down at Camp Lejeune. You have special operations down there with MARSOC as well. So a lot more opportunity I felt to be on the East Coast and be able to travel to those certain bases. Campbell up in Fifth Group up there, and I mean just all of them over the whole East Coast. I just thought that it was a much better suit for me to be here on the East Coast. I was used to go down to Fort Benning like all the time. So Fort Benning and I mean, just everywhere. Flexi, Glencoe, Georgia. I mean, all over the East Coast, there's a ton of bases. And, just felt it was better to be able to, if we win contracts or we win work at those particular bases, I can go and do visits. And, obviously it's about relationships. So I could go there and meet with the customers and build that rapport and build the relationships.
That's sick to be right in the middle of it. Because, like, one thing that on the podcast, ever since I went to the first race last year, the opening season, or the opening race of Full Gas, like, I've kind of joked on the show about it. And it's not really a joke because it's actually true, but I always say that, like, the group of Full Gas guys like a team full of assassins. I was like, you don't want to do anything wrong because you got Koscheck over there, and then every single person working there is, like, special force dude, like, straight up just assassins, every single one of them.
Yeah. And that's, what's awesome is obviously my counterpart, Jody, he's over here. I think he's sleeping. So,
dang, we put him to sleep.
He's a retired colonel.
Very recently retired.
Yeah. Well, last year when he worked Full Gas, he was still pretty much active duty, and he just, volunteered his time, So, just recently retired, and Steve Smith in scoring, another Echo 8. I don't know any of those like buttons, and I have an iPhone 6. All right, all right. So if it wasn't for Steve, we would not be operational as far as timing and scoring. So obviously Obi, Special Forces, Mike, he's a MARSOC guy, and obviously I'm repping the Marine Raider Foundation here. So if you want a good foundation to support, go check them out. So yeah, I mean those guys are total assassins, and don't worry about me because I don't want to punch anybody. I don't want to get punched. Just leave me. I'll let them all do the work. So yeah, that we work with in Full Gas, and obviously your I guess, what do you call it? Your listeners, obviously don't know much, maybe not know much about MMA. So it's kind of refreshing and good to kind of sit back and talk about, a little bit of mixed martial arts and obviously dirt biking. I went on a rant earlier about pay, and, I still think it, they fear Full Gas because, we're going to pay. We're going to share well.
And really, like, whenever you announced that last year, like, I was sharing that left and right, and we talked about it on here, and Stu and I talked about it on here, and it's really the first time that I've seen somebody put a championship bonus on the season, and for season end points, and not just a small, like, it was $10,000 for the pro class, and then another, what was it, $5,000 for the women to be spread out, or it was some, what was it?
Yeah, I don't, maybe like 2,000,
like additional money for the women's pro riders too.
4,000, we'll say.
And kind of like where we started out with this whole thing, like you're getting 200 to 300 riders, and then there's other people that are getting 2,000 to 3,000 riders, and paying the same or less to win races. And like, what do you think is going to take to make that change? Because it's kind of a two-part thing. Because one, the promoters can pay out more, like they can afford it, whether it's like maybe putting in something where a percentage of rider registration goes towards pro purse or whatever. But then the other side of it is like we talked about before with the rider contracts. But for everyone that holds out on a contract, there's another guy right there willing to step up and take that contract for that money. So it's like, how do you?
Thing is MMA.
Exactly. So what's the solution?
The solution is everybody get management.
Yeah.
and fight over it and drive, because let the managers drive that price, then let the managers talk to each other, say, hey, this is the going rate. And that's what Dwayne Zinkin and Bob Cook did at Zinkin Entertainment, is they got together and they drove that price up. I can tell you this, and I've thought about this long and hard for quite some time. I bet you every racer that comes and races the race, I would do it. I'd donate $5 every time I go to a race, just to pay these guys, because I see them rip through the woods and come past me, and I'm like, holy shit, was that a F-16 just flew by me? Oh no, that was Josh Stranger, that was freaking Stu Baylor.
Yeah.
Um, and to see them ride in the woods like they do and watch them pass you, and then you're like thinking, okay, I'm gonna hang with them for 1, 2, 3, they're gone, and you can't even fathom it unless you're in the woods and you're driving or riding behind that pro rider and looking them and watching them just take off from you like it's gone. And they're the best in the world at what they do. They just need to be compensated. And I would donate $5 every time I go to a race to whatever organization, and I can guarantee there's a lot of other people that would do it too. Maybe they just take $5 out of they say, hey, this is going to the pro purses, and then split that up against the pro purses. Everybody that goes into the race, put $5 in the freaking in the jar and give it to the pro riders.
Dude, it doesn't even need to go that far. Like, the last race last year at Ironman, there was allegedly 12,000 people through the gate and 3,000 people that raced. That's over $600,000 in a weekend. Like,
$25 a pop.
Yeah, 30 at Ironman. I'm pretty sure Ironman's 30.
What was the payout?
$1,250.
Man, that's sad.
I mean, that's just the way I think about it.
That's like, think about this. MMA, $250, $250, first 2 fights.
Yeah.
Off-road racing is beyond that now.
But
right?
I mean,
when you think, how long has off-road racing been around? Long time. Yeah.
Longer than MMA.
Longer than MMA. Yeah. So why aren't these guys getting a piece of that? We'll see. So.
I mean, even MMA, like the NFL, NBA, MLB, they're required to pay out between 49 and 51%.
Yeah, they have TV deals and they have all these big monster deals, sponsorships. Listen, I own Full Gas. All right. Do you know how many companies I've called about sponsor?
How many?
For 2020.
What's your estimation?
3. They're tapped.
Yeah.
They get beat up. There's limited amount of sponsors, limited amount of products in this sport. They get beat up. There's only XC Gear, FMF, Rocky Mountain. They can only sponsor so many series. There's a lot of race series throughout the country. Mm-hmm. Off-road races all over. There's mom and pops here, mom and pops there. They can only sponsor so many people. They're tapped on their sponsorship. So that's the hardest part is obviously by the time they get their select riders, and then they get a couple of series, they're tapped. And, to me, I felt it was a waste of time. So the key is to go outside of the market. What's it going to take for these organizations like Full Gas, GNCC, to go out and get these other corporate sponsorships to get involved? Because if you have 12,000 people coming to you, that's like a college basketball game or a football game. That's a lot of people coming through the gate. Shouldn't you be able to go out there and get a major corporate sponsor for that event? I could tell you, I would spend a lot of time and effort. I'd probably hire somebody.
See, I don't agree with that, because that college football and basketball game is getting televised. So yeah, there's 12,000 people there, but there's also people watching it on TV. And that was my whole reason for starting this podcast, because there's podcasts and there's shows about Supercross and Motocross, and Supercross and Motocross are on TV. There's no outside media besides Racer TV where you can watch off-road racing. And if you
they're great, but I only watch 30 seconds of racing the whole freaking 3 hours of the day.
Yeah. And then you just listen to people talk about stuff that's not even going on during the race. But
so it's cool, but they got to figure out a way to obviously cover more footage,
Yeah.
more obviously in the woods, it's tough. I've been to the GNCC races where I've seen these camera guys come around and, get on their bike and go here and go there, that type of thing.
That's me.
Yeah, I thought, who I thought did a good job when they were doing it? Was it maybe Caleb Russell was doing it for a while? Was he doing it?
What do you mean? Doing what?
On the talking out in the woods
No.
on race. Who was out in the woods not too? Oh, was it Stu? Maybe one of the guys.
Maybe
was
when he
hurt.
was hurt or something.
Yeah, maybe when he was hurt. They had it with one of the racers out there, which made it interesting because then you hear it from a racer's perspective. I think it was when Stu was hurt. He was doing some of the talking on it. You know, the woods saying, "Hey, I'm at mile marker X," and blah 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 blah. Was kind of cool, to see it from his perspective. But yeah, I mean, it's tough, man. Let me tell you, it's unless you've ever promoted an event, it is tough. It's hard. And my wife asked me, she says, "Why the hell are we doing this?" And I said, "Because I have a passion for off-road racing." She asked me all the time, "How many days are you going to be gone next week?" For the setting up for round one at Outback. And I have to put it on the calendar. And I tried to go on Tuesday, and she says, "Your calendar invite says 8 a.m. on that's when you're leaving." She says, like, why? She asks me all the time, "Why are we doing this? Why are we doing it? Why? Why?" And it's tough, unless you've ever promoted an event, you won't understand it. And listen, I'm never going to shy away from work. I've got a great staff, Uncle Dan and, Jody and his family and Mike and everybody involved and Steve and everybody who helps Full Gas. It's awesome. It's a family. It's basically, it's kind of like Hooper used to have. I went to the Hooper. It's basically a knit group. It's like becomes your family.
Yep.
I guess we're carnies now, on the road again. But yeah, I just think that, unless you've promoted one of these races and understand what the promoter goes through, then you'll never understand it. It's tough because there's not a lot of money to be made in these things. But I think that, as your series grows, and if you can get to that level, a national level, then give back a little more. You shouldn't be letting a little Full Gas, or a Mideast or a North Carolina series pay more than a big national series who's been around for years. It's getting 12,000, 900, 500 riders. Pay these guys a little more. And I'm an advocate for that because I used to be in their shoes. I'm not slamming anybody. I'm not trying to slander any of these series. I'm just saying from perspective, I was a professional athlete and I know what it's like to be the best in the world and not be compensated. And these dudes are the best riders in off-road racing and they need to be compensated.
And not only that, like a couple things just to piggyback off what you said. They are the best in the world, and they're not making as much as ping pong players and bowlers and fishermen and all this, that, and the other. You can go on and on. Probably badminton if you looked it up. Like you could find all sorts of professional athletes that are making a lot more money. But I've completely lost my train of thought there.
Oh, just like you were late today.
Oh my goodness, never gonna live it down.
8:30. He started this thing 8:38. We started this podcast. I broadcasted it all over my social media at Josh Koscheck, at Full Gas, and everybody's emailing me and sending me messages. I can't find it. Can't find it not on YouTube, not on Twitch, not on what is this? Switch or Twitch?
Right now, we're on Twitch.
Okay, Twitch. Yeah. All right. Yeah. The only Twitch I know, he rides a dirt bike.
That is true. But better late than never. But never late is better. I understand.
Yeah.
But not like the kind of. Oh, I remember where I was going. So when you're talking about the pay of these athletes, professional athletes, best in the world, this, that, and the other. So not only is the pay not being stepped up, the pay hasn't been increased in years and years and years. It's been the same, and even though everything else around it's going up, salary caps in other sports are going up, inflation's going up, price of milk's going up. Do what?
Inflation?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And
I
so,
used to be able to buy eggs a year ago for $1.50. Now they're $6.
Yeah, it's insane.
I'm gonna buy a couple chickens.
That's what you need. But then the feed went up for the chickens.
Yeah.
But no, but what I'm getting at is not only are they the best in the world, not only are they competing against each other for the majority of the weeks throughout the year when you get done racing both series, but look at just the first 3 races last year at GNCC in the pro class. You had 2 broken pelvises, you had a broken neck, you had a broken arm, you ended up having a broken leg and another torn shoulder, and I feel like I'm missing somebody. But like risking life and limb every time they go out there, there's the risk of injury, there's the risk of paralysis, there's the risk of death, and
Yep.
it's putting that on the line for $1,200.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did it in MMA. I mean, broke my face I got paid
Yeah,
a lot
that's what I
more.
mean.
But, I get it. It's tough, man. It's just like this. The UFC controlled the market for so long. They went in, they bought Pride. They closed them down. Obviously there was Strike Force there for a while, but they had, they bought that. So then Scott Coker was put on ice back in the day. They controlled the whole market, and then obviously Scott Coker got free and then bought Bellator from the guy that I don't remember who it was, but the UFC controlled the market for so long. There's certain off-road industry series that control the market, and until there's a competitor, and everybody complains about Full Gas putting their races on the same as the other 2-day series. You know what? Competition's good, because guess what? We may force that other series to put on better races, to pay the riders more. Don't complain about the races being on the same day, because we will force everybody to pay more if they're racing on the same day as Full Gas. Why go to that race when they can go to Full Gas and make more money? So competition is good. I've been a competitor my whole life. Competition's good. What it does is it forces them to be better, and it will force us to be better. Why do you want to come race at Full Gas? Because they run a tight ship. They're going to start on time. Every 30 to 40 minutes, you're going to have a new test. You're going to do 10 tests in a day. All the tape is going to be put back up after every test. Blah, 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 blah. The scoring is going to be primo. I mean, the awards are cool, and the pay at the end of the race is good. And guess what? 2023, we have contingency, and we're promoting it. So if you ride KTM, guess what? We got contingency. Gas, contingency. Husky, contingency. What was the other one? Honda contingency. Well, they haven't updated their website. I'm waiting on that. So Jose, please update that website, because I have a lot of people. So Honda, and then Kawasaki. So if you ride those 5 brands, come make some money at Full Gas, because we have the contingencies. So, and I'm super stoked that KTM stepped up last year, and so did Kawasaki. They both stepped up last year, and they honored Full Gas for 2022, and we got to pay those riders. So 2023, we got it, and it's known. KTMs. We didn't have a lot of KTMs last year at our race. I'd love to see a lot of KTMs. Jody, he just bought a 23 KTM, and I was a little bit mad at him, but he ripped on that. I'm happy. You know what I mean? So KTM riders, come and check us out. We got KTM contingency, so it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of big things going on, a lot of cool things in the mix, and hey, just like a couple weeks out from racing.
Yep. February 11th, Outback Motorsports Park. Don't be it. 1-day event too. So here's why we went to a 1-day event. It just makes sense to put all those riders. If we're getting 300 riders throughout the weekend, why not just put them all in one day?
And everything on Saturday?
Everything's on Saturday, February 11th, all season long. We're going to do 1-day event. I don't know why everybody wants to race on Sunday. It's like weird. It's like, I'd rather have my weekend and be able to enjoy it. Like, hey, on Saturday night, I want to go out and have a couple beers, have some wine. I can do that, and then, so here's the nice thing about Full Gas on Saturday. You come, you race Saturday. If you want to spend the night, you can. And then you get home at a reasonable time on Sunday. You wash your bike, or you go race another series, your local series. I have a guy that raced our series last year on Saturday, and then we'll go race another series on Sunday. And I know a lot of guys are doing that. Like, for example, I know for a fact Robbie Norwood is going to race full gas on the 11th at Outback, and then he's going to go down to and race the Mid East on Sunday. So, it's like, hey, come race us on Saturday. You ain't got anything going on. Get prepped up for Sunday, and then go race on Sunday.
Hey, Robbie Norwood, little Virginia legend. He actually messaged me, said you guys have been doing a little training together.
Oh yeah, yeah. He was over here at my house yesterday.
Oh really?
He those little rabbits can run like the Dickens, man. Oh, drives me. Got all the little dudes. I mean, Robbie's like 145 pounds.
Yeah.
Jody's a little. He doesn't run as good as Wes, but these little dudes are like 140 pounds. My big fat butt's in the back, just. I'm like 5 miles. Robbie goes. He goes. Hey, 5 miles today. I'm like 5 miles. I haven't done 5 miles since I was like 22, Robbie. I was like, I can't do 5 miles. He goes, what do you tell me? Because we do the Airdyne bike. He goes, what do you tell me on the Airdyne bike? He's like, go harder. Let's go. They're going to get you. I was like, dude, all right, I'll do it. So I went 5 miles the other day. I don't think I worked out since. Oh, but I can't just jump up and go and work. You know what I mean? Like work out. I got busy life, man. So,
hey, you're old now, man. You got to recover. You got to have some time.
I know. Like a month. I told him I'll run another 5 miles next month, February 23rd.
No, I thought it was cool when he messaged me and said that he's been training and stuff with you.
Yeah.
Unlike our other buddy that was supposed to train with you and then never showed up.
Oh yeah, that guy. What's his number? 407.
Something like that. Yeah.
He didn't show up. He talks a big game. I saw him and Stu lifting weights. That's their thing. Is like, oh, I can 315 pounds. Woo. I'm just saying. But I tell you this, he has been a little more active on social media. So Stu's maybe woken him up a little. Maybe give him a little personality.
Oh, so tell me more about his social media. Does it look good?
It looks okay. I mean, it's kind of like I would probably like something that I would do, but it's getting better. You know what I mean? Nothing like do, but it's getting better. I mean, so a lot of reposts, nothing natural. Like he needs to probably get out there and do some something a little different. But we'll get him there.
I don't even think that was public knowledge. I think you do know. But
yeah, I know.
Yeah, we're working his social media presence.
No wonder his social media sucks.
Hey, listen,
hey 407. You need to fire him and hire the full gas guy. He's pretty good.
Same guy.
Oh.
No, it's I gotta work with I can't go down there and film. I broke my leg, and so I just get the videos he sends me. But hey, we're about to step it up. It's race season.
All right. Well, you can get down there, hobble your butt down there, get in your electric car that drives itself. All you gotta do is hobble the car and let the car drive you there.
Yeah, I need to break out the pit bike so I can get around because I can't walk anywhere.
Well, I got a wheelchair if you need it.
Do what?
Electric one too.
But hey, that's right up my alley.
Yes, sir.
Man, I appreciate your time. And one thing that I did want to ask just before we got off the subject, and I don't know how you're going to feel about it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So, obviously, you've fought a lot of top guys. You fought a lot of former champions. You fought a lot of guys that became champion. You fought 4 championships. But like GSP, he is one of like the Mount Rushmore guys in the terms of like legacy of MMA and stuff. And you ended up fighting him twice. So I just kind of wanted to like ask you what your mindset was going into the first fight versus going into the second fight, and like if that was any difference in like what you learned in the first fight, and did that apply or help or hurt the second fight? Because I mean, it's to fight him twice and then fight everybody else he fought was just, I don't know. I just wanted to hear your opinion on it.
George St. Pierre, the first fight, man, I think I was just cocky.
Which one was the Ultimate Fighter fight? The second one?
Yes, the second one.
Okay.
The first time I fought, he lost to Matt Serra, and I was giggling like he got knocked out to Matt Serra, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna fight Matt Serra, this little midget, for the title. I was like, oh my goodness. Um, I was like, this is so awesome. I was like, I'm gonna crush Serra, and I'm gonna be the UFC. And then they're like, oh no, you're fighting George St. Pierre next. I was like, okay, I can beat him. He just got knocked out. And then basically, Matt Serra. Obviously would have George went on to fight him after, he beat me, but I just felt like, oh my God, I'm not going to work wrestling. I'm going to work boxing. This guy can't take me down. And, he played a good, smart, conservative, boring game. And, he didn't want to fight that fight. He just wrestled and, kind of out wrestled me and held me down a little bit. But it is what it is. George St. Pierre, not taking anything away from him, he is one of the greatest mixed martial artists that's ever stepped into the cage, and his legacy and his record obviously stands for itself. That first fight, mindset was like I think I was just a little too cocky going into that fight. And it showed. And then the second fight, my God, I never trained so hard for a fight in my entire life. And on circumstances of that first round, he broke my orbital bone. My eye dropped down in the socket in the first round, and man, every time he hit me, I could just feel it in my teeth. And I don't even shave with a razor anymore, because every time I do, even if I do that right there, I feel the numbness in my eye. So I think of George quite often, But I got to fight him in Montreal. That arena sold out in like literally 2 minutes. It was 24,000 plus people. It was just insane. Daniel Cormier was in my corner and walked out that time, and he said he's never heard an arena ever that loud boos when I walked out. So he's like, everybody was feared for their lives on that one. There was so much security in that place. It was nuts. So, it is cool. It's a good opportunity, obviously to fight somebody of that caliber. And, you learn a lot every time you step in there. It's just like when you race a dirt bike in the woods. You learn from it. And every time I got, into the octagon, win or lose, I learned something from it, and just kind of, would try to adjust for the next one and try not to make those same mistakes, and, just keep training. So one of the things that I can just say this, and I can end with this talking about MMA, is when I started this sport, I didn't know one thing about MMA. And when I ended it, I was a very well-rounded fighter. Not the same fighter as I was in the latter career when I was winning a lot of fights and, knocking out guys like Matt Hughes and, beating Paul Daly and, those type of fighters like a Frank Trigg and Anthony Johnson. I wasn't. I wasn't that at the end of my career, but during the career, in the middle of that career, I figured it out. I learned how to become a complete, well-rounded fighter. I could wrestle, I could submit guys, I could knock guys out, I've head kick guys. I had big power, and I figured out how to become a complete fighter. And that was one of the goals, when I first started this thing on The Ultimate Fighter back in 2004, is how do I become a complete fighter? And it showed the testament in the work ethic that I had to put in, learning other skills. I didn't wrestle for years. I learned how to box. I learned how to kick. I learned how to knee and punch, and I learned my submissions. So, so with that being said, it's a testament of anytime you're willing to work at something and put the time in, you can be successful.
What a way to bring that all together. And that exact thing is, I'm sure, what got you an NCAA wrestling title, got you a successful business that you're doing now, and now I'm sure all that's being applied to the dirt bike and to running this series. So it's cool to kind of hear you wrap things up and finish things off that way, especially because you're right in the middle of it now. Like taking this dirt bike series that you never promoted a race before, been to one full gas before, and then you step right into it, pick up right where everything left off, and run a successful year. And now just a couple weekends ahead of going into your second year as a promoter. So it's cool to see that mindset and see how it's all applied now, I guess.
Yep. Well, we'll see you February 11th, Outback Motorsports Park.
Cool.
Nah, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Can't wait. But man, wish you all the luck in the world this year on the season and everything that you got going on. February 11th, Full Gas Sprint Enduro. I'm sure everyone's going to turn up and be out there. But yeah, wishing you luck on that. Can't thank you enough for your time. Really appreciate you sitting down, joining me, and us finally doing the show and getting together. And yeah, just can't thank you enough for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you February 11th, Outback.
All right, man. We'll see you.